There is a particular kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from losing someone. It comes from slowly realizing the person you loved was never quite there. You're sitting across the dinner table, and while they look real, they are somehow always just out of reach. Pay attention to the strange tense that keeps slipping out when you describe your relationship. He's working on himself. She's almost ready for something real. When things calm down, they'll have more space for me. Every one of those sentences is set in the future. You are not describing a person. You are describing a forecast. Decades ago, psychologist Robert Firestone named this the fantasy bond. It occurs when a real connection is swapped for an imagined one. You see a glimpse of who someone could be, a flash of kindness or an honest conversation at 2 a.m, and you build an entire partner around that highlight reel, treating the actual person as a temporary glitch. While you wait for them to catch up to the version in your head, the relationship you're actually in, the unanswered texts and the plans that never firm up, becomes a waiting room. You have sacrificed a real connection to maintain a relationship with a ghost. The logical response to this is to strip away the rose-tinted glasses. Common sense suggests that we should see people coldly and realistically, demanding they show up exactly as they are right now or we leave. However, research led by Sandra Murray in the 1990s found a result that challenges that assumption. She studied couples who idealized each other, people who viewed their partners even more positively than their partners viewed themselves. Over time, the couples who saw each other realistically reported a steady slide into disappointment, but the couples who idealized each other stayed satisfied. Their relationships were likely to last because they saw a true potential and helped them grow into it. This leaves us with a contradiction. Idealization is the factor that kills love in Firestone's work, yet it is the secret to a lasting marriage in Murray's research. Both can't be right, unless they are describing two different things that only look identical. To understand why we are so prone to falling in love with potential, we have to look further back than the current relationship. The blueprint for this behavior is usually drawn in childhood. Consider a child with an unpredictable parent, someone who is warm one day and frighteningly distant the next. Because the child's survival depends on that parent being good, the child faces an unbearable problem that their mind must solve. The child creates an illusion. They decide, my parent isn't really like this. They'll be who I need once things get easier. They bond to the potential of the parent because the reality is too painful to hold. It is a brilliant survival mechanism that gets them through, but it stays wired into the nervous system. As an adult, this child walks into a room and meets someone who is completely inconsistent and emotionally unavailable. That inconsistency feels familiar. They think, I can see who they really are underneath, rerunning the oldest program they have, love as a project that arrives only if you hope hard enough.
This explains why an emotionally unavailable partner can feel electric, while a steady, present person feels flat. The inconsistency itself creates the intensity. This is intermittent reinforcement. When warmth comes unpredictably, your brain starts chasing the next hit, and it reads that frantic chase as passion. Meanwhile, a consistent partner doesn't trigger that roller coaster because they are already handing you the real thing. Look at a woman named Maya. She met a man who spent their third date describing the book he was going to write and the father he wanted to become. Maya didn't fall for the man at the table. She fell for the trailer of his future. 2 years later, the book is still unwritten, and Maya has become an expert witness for the defense, explaining to her friends why this isn't the real him. She has a list of his intentions, but almost no actual events to show for the relationship. Confusing anxiety for love ensures you stay.
The racing heart, the constant checking, and the relief when they finally text back isn't the body recognizing a soulmate, it's the body bracing against an absence. The solution to the Murray and Firestone paradox lies in the evidence. While they look the same, healthy idealization and the fantasy bond are built on opposite foundations. Healthy idealization takes their demonstrated qualities and lets you see them in their most generous light. A fantasy bond ignores the evidence entirely. It takes who someone is not and treats it as a temporary glitch. Healthy idealization adds warmth to reality. A fantasy bond replaces reality. One is a spotlight on reality. The other is a hologram standing where a person should be. To know which one you are living in, you have to look at the evidence of behavior. In a grounded relationship, your feelings and their actions point in the same direction. In a fantasy bond, you are always doing translation work. You are constantly explaining away what they do, reaching for context, or reminding yourself of one perfect weekend to justify months of absence. People tell you who they are with their behavior, not their words, and not the version of them that appears only when they are lonely. Their pattern over time is the most honest sentence they will ever speak to you. When you love someone's potential, you are effectively a full-time advocate for a partner who doesn't exist. The gap between what they do and what you feel is exactly the size of your fantasy. Breaking this cycle requires a radical shift. You have to start believing in people's capacity instead of their potential. Potential is a forecast based on hope. Capacity is a foundation built on evidence. Capacity is what someone has actually demonstrated they can do through their choices. There is a hidden cruelty in loving potential. You are telling the person in front of you that they aren't enough yet, while you exhaust yourself waiting for an upgrade. You become a prisoner of someday. You deserve a love that exists in the present tense, not a forecast and not a draft you keep hoping they'll rewrite. Give yourself permission to surrender the fantasy and make room for someone whose behavior, today, is already an answer you can trust.